Use medevacs to support large infantry groups. Yeah, that is solid intel, that I'll tell you. Here we are at Super V. Super V, Super V. And he's up in the top right. It's Super VV, some sort of like SU perv. I'm not sure about that. That doesn't sound great. Will this time with a much more, dare I say, sensible pylon positioning, just at the front door, normal. That way you get to see if something comes in, something weird. And it's even going to scout, I think. I'm just kind of hoping we don't see like a really weird build again. A proxy robo is a thing. You can do proxy robo, but in general, the reason you proxy the robo is because you can warp in gateway units on the other side of the map. You can't warp in robo units. So you proxy the robo and then you warp in at the pylon or whatever. So this worker coming in, having a good old look around, does get to see the time-ins for the expo. And you see that and you know that everything's fine. No cheese is what's up. Just a normal build time in, normal CC time in on the low ground. So you're like, okay, happy days. This person is probably opening 211, something like that, straight up. Likewise, Super V has seen this, and so he knows there is not going to be a double robo outside my base. The Nexus is done. The gateway time in is reasonably normal, reasonably standard stuff. And yeah, nothing to worry about. So that's why you scout. That's one of the things you're looking for when you scout. It can be difficult. Scouting isn't as easy as it sounds. It's all well and good if you look inside your opponent's base and you see a crucial bit of tech. Now, actually, speaking of which, let me just check. Did he see if he clicked on it, he saw the Twilight. You see a crucial bit of tech, something like maybe a Dark Shrine, a Stargate, something that's going to tell you what your opponent's tech is doing. But oftentimes you don't necessarily get as clear an obvious sign as that. Oftentimes you have to rely on a little bit of scrapped intuition, a little bit of, and that comes from the timings of things. So bear in mind, if you're a Protoss, you're a Terran, your expo should be about the same time. Will gets a great scout here though. The observer is fantastic, flies through, doesn't actually see the engineering bay, but that's not too big a deal. It does see everything else. So timings wise, the CC should go down at about the same time as the Nexus. So if you're dropping yours and you see that your opponent hasn't got theirs, and yours has been maybe yours is already half done, that should be making you think, okay, either they don't know what they're doing or they're up to something. Something is fishy about that. So that's the type of thing you're checking. Similarly with Zerg, Zerg should be expoing way before you. Typically, you're checking, did the Zerg go hatch first? Because hatch first, yeah, that's just straight up, that's normal. Hatch first is what you do. So if they haven't gone hatch first, that smells funny. So that's kind of what you're checking. You just want to know the timings. The other things to look for, and actually this almost doesn't apply in the EMS league because you guys just, I don't know, you're kind of funny about upgrades. The other thing to look for is timings of things like the Forge. If you're playing against a Protoss, in general, if you see them build a Forge, they're getting upgrades. If they're getting upgrades, they're not just about to attack you, are they? Because they're going to wait for those upgrades. Otherwise, what was the point of getting their upgrades? So in general, if you see somebody upgrading, they're playing the long game. This Protoss army is big, and Super V's army is absolutely disparate. The Marines, the bio was all out on its own. The medevacs were a mile away. The siege tanks were a mile away. None of it's sieged up. I don't know. I think he needs to fly this CC out of there. This is a brave move down the ramp. Personally, I'd have had the depot up. I'd have got my siege tanks into position. Now, the siege tanks on the high ground here, they can hit these. He has finally flown that away. The depots never came up, so the zealots are in, and this could be trouble. Now, the siege tank here, I don't mind at all. It's a little bit sacrificial. It's definitely going to go down. But yeah, these zealots are going to get it. It's just too big a Protoss army. So the engage was kind of horrible. Largely because, you know, your stuff needs to fight together. Marines on their own, they're squishy. And unless you've got like an overwhelming supply advantage, the Marines aren't going to, and especially once there's splash damage and stuff, the Marines aren't going to trade well against a big Protoss army. I'm just going to rewind slightly. This game is over. And let's just, before that engage happened, if we look at the army supply, it is massively in favor of our Protoss. So the only way Terran is surviving that is if they get a pretty much perfect engage, and, you know, 2 siege tanks and 2 medevacs parked at home while your Marines fight. Well, to be fair, there was 1 medevac here, but you know, that just cannot put out the amount of healing that was required. So yeah, a perfect engage, and maybe the Terran holds. They've got defenders advantage. They've got buildings that they can use as well. You know, the way you want to use, when I say you use buildings, what that means is that, you know, these units are kind of stupid. If you've just clicked, if they're being shot in the face by something, yeah, maybe they attack it. But if an Archon is here and there's a tank here, the Archon is attacking the CC. So your buildings can soak up quite a lot of damage, which is damage that your units aren't taking. So you'll even see Terran players do stuff like, you know, lift a CC and fly it over the opponent's army so that it's by far the closest thing to them. And that has a couple of effects. A CC absorbs a vast amount of damage. You know, that's an awful lot of hit points that your Marines aren't absorbing. So you can literally, in moments like this, you can pick up that CC and fly it towards your opponent. Which buys you time, it absorbs fire, it allows you to position your siege tanks, it allows you to do all of those things. But it was a pretty tall order. That was quite a spicy Protoss army. So a pretty reasonably well executed attack from Will, with just better numbers in it. Better numbers, more. He had more. You know what I mean? Yeah. Had more. GG.